welcome back to the 5 Fantasy Show. Now, this is, of course, a look ahead to game week 4. But first, to kick things off, we have a special message for those top of the leaderboard from this man.
Just going to do a special shout out for the 5 Fantasy Football League. Jay Ryan is top of the league. Ollie Beef Hooked is his team. Listen, he's on absolute fire. Everyone's chasing him. He's done really, really well. And do you know what's going to happen this week? I've got to try and find a way of getting Marcus Rashford in my team because he's back amongst the goals. And I think it's going to kick on now and just start plugging away and banging points in. So over to you, Olivia and Joe.
Let's have a look at Jay Ryan's team then. And do you know what? Not the biggest score on the week, 62, but obviously extremely consistent. And immediately I notice Rodrigo's in the side. Yeah. Brave enough to put Perisic in the side. Haaland's in the side as captain as well. I think there's changes he might make to this team, though, coming into this week. But overall, Jay Ryan, you can't mess with over 200 points at this stage.
That is, by the way, that's absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Over 200 points, and we've only had 3 game weeks. And like you say, 62 is not the greatest score this game week, but captain pick Haaland was obviously the right one. Could have gone. He has not. I was going to say could have gone Salah. He hasn't got Salah.
Salah,
which is. I mean, evidently it's going well for him. But I feel like people that don't have Salah at this stage, because even when Liverpool don't play well, he still manages to score. And they've got Bournemouth at home this weekend. But
who are we to say anything?
Yeah, who am I to say anything?
Yeah, who are you to say anything? Because your team stinks.
Okay, yeah, so I got 40 points this week. I actually, captain pick straight away was evidently the wrong one, even though Jesus had a goal disallowed, should have scored a second. He had he played really well.
Unreal.
He was so good. Right, so let's just go through my back line, which is really good. 0, 0, 1 and 1.
Yeah.
But
the Chelsea bias is shining through.
Yeah, but do you know what? When I went for Cucurella, I looked at that Leeds away fixture and thought 1-3-0 last year. He's going to play as a left wing back, and it just went to absolute rubbish.
Nonsense. Yeah.
I said I was going to give, on the show last week, I said I was going to give Mason Mount Leeds away. But now I'm looking at the Leicester at home fixture and thinking it's a really good fixture.
I can't believe you're sticking Mason Mount. At that price point, Mason Mount, I think, has got to go ahead. And like Cucurella this coming week, but obviously, is he going to play centre-back with a Koulibaly red card? Yeah,
but how was I to know that when I transferred him in last week when he played left wing-back? Koulibaly absolutely killed me here because, Cucurella will play left centre-back and Ben Chilwell will play left wing back against Leicester. But I'm like in a predicament now because I look at the fixtures that my team has got for this week.
Lots of home fixtures.
And they look really, really good. So it's like, do I then waste a wild card, which I was thinking about doing, and only making 3 or 4 changes? Or do I potentially take a -4 and make a couple of changes? But the team has got really good fixtures.
Yeah.
What do you think I should do?
Leicester have been terrible.
That's the thing, defensively.
Even midweek, they looked poor, didn't they? And obviously, Brendan Rodgers under extreme amount of pressure. So I think Chelsea going into that game will be wanting
need to bounce
back
at home.
Same way Liverpool probably will after that Manchester United debacle. So I kind of see where you're coming from, like the reticence to not get rid of them. But, there's obviously free unlimited transfers post the World Cup. Yeah. So burn the wild card early, I think, if you need to. And I would be tempted to do it with that too.
But you've just said you can understand where I'm coming from in terms of keeping them, but you also... So what do you think I should do?
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
That's so much help.
I'm on the fence. I would probably... wild card.
Would you?
Yeah, I think I would wild card, and I would be looking to move on Cucurella, probably Mason Mount, definitely Kieran and Dewsbury Hall as well, and then improve the bench a little bit as well. I just think that if Mount's priced at that sort of level, and then you've got Rodrigo, who's basically playing through the middle as a number 9 and captain right now at like in the 6 range, I think it's a no-brainer.
I just know as soon as I take Mason Mount out, he's going to score. I just know it. And that Leicester at home fixture, like I've already done that with Marcus Rashford. I've had him for 3 game weeks. You literally
where is he?
You literally
was here last week and he scored. So where is he?
3 game weeks having him in my team. So I took him out and then he goes and scores and gets 10 points. I know Mason Mount's going to be the same.
Okay, well if you don't want to take Mason Mount out, then there's no point wildcarding.
No. Yeah, I think I've got some big decisions to make ahead of the deadline.
Major decisions.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look at my team. They're not an amazing week either.
You only got 10 more. You only got 10 more points than me.
Yeah, it was a tough week.
It's the Salah captaincy that swayed it. Your captain pick was spot on, evidently. Looking at that team, it's pretty good. Are you thinking of making any changes?
I am considering making changes in the back line. Like, I don't know whether I'm brave enough, but I kind of want to drop Reece James. If he's going to be playing this right centre-back role, then I don't know whether the points are going to be there for me throughout the course of the season. I'm also really worried about Liverpool at the moment. I've gone heavy on Liverpool. Obviously, Salah, Luis Diaz, Trent. Like, Trent has struggled first few weeks, hasn't he? Quite badly. I need to see like a big bounce back at the weekend. I think they're at home to Bournemouth, who are one of the worst teams in the league. We saw how Arsenal went to Bournemouth and dominated them. So I'm obviously going to stick with Salah as captain, because even when he doesn't play well, he scores. But I need big things from Trent and Luis Diaz, despite the fact Luis Diaz pulled him out of the fire against Crystal Palace.
What I would say, firstly, about Reece James, I think if we've learned anything from the Leeds performance, it was that Reece James has to play as a right wing back. And I think maybe with Koulibaly out, Cucurella playing left centre back, maybe Chalobah comes in at right centre back, or Azpilicueta, because I think he's wasted at right centre back. I mean, we all know how brilliant he is as a footballer, but as an FPL player, you don't want a right centre back in your team. You want a right wing back in your team, and Reece James is that. So I can understand maybe you thinking about taking him out, maybe give him this Leicester at home fixture, see where he plays, because you never know. But I feel like he's going to play as a right wing back against Leicester.
I'm just glad I didn't double down as well on the Liverpool defenders with Andrew Robertson there, because he's obviously coming off before the 90 minutes, isn't he? And he's just not in his usual rhythm, Andy Robertson, especially in those attacking areas. So I'm pretty happy with Kieran Trippier at the moment, who's been a big point scorer for me. I
mean, he's returned in every game so far. The one thing I would say about Trent and Robbo,
fixtures.
I think we said last week that if you've got both of them, you'd probably be looking at getting one of them out. And I think that stance is still the same. If you've got both, because Liverpool aren't keeping clean sheets, you're probably going to look for either or. But that Bournemouth at home fixture, if you're thinking about taking Trent out, what I would say is hold off for this one game week. They've got Newcastle at home after Bournemouth. I think that's a midweek round, isn't it? And that is actually a tough game on paper. Newcastle have started the season brilliantly.
And then they've got the derby.
And then they've got Wolves at home. So what I would say with Trent, if you've got both Trent and Robbo, maybe look to get rid of one and save up some money elsewhere, because there are some good options at around 5.5 million. Like Perisic, I think, is one of them. Maybe it's time to look for him. But I think if you've got one of them, I would definitely hold for Bournemouth at home. And then fair play, if they do nothing against Bournemouth at home, then that's your thingy to get rid. Okay, time to have a look at Rio's team. 52 points he got this week. And immediately, Robert Sanchez in goal.
Yeah.
And the thing about Robert Sanchez is, one, he's cheap. Two, he returned in the first two games, and although he conceded in this game week, or game week 3, he still managed to get 4 points, which is pretty good for a keeper.
I mean, it's making a mockery of the Cucurella sale at £60 million, isn't it? Given how good Brighton have been defensively. I think by expected goals, they've got the second best defence in the entire league, Brighton. So Robert Sanchez, so crucial to how they want to play.
4.5
value.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, he is 4.5. Proper value in that goalkeeper position as well. If you need to save a little bit of money that you want to invest in a forward area, Robert Sanchez versus David Raya, I think is the best suggestions. But I would be suggesting to go with Robert Sanchez
on a
just
wild
as a
card.
better.
That is probably a really good option on a wild card, because I suppose if you're taking a -4, you probably don't really want to be changing your goalkeeper. But if you're on a wild card, look at their fixtures: Leeds at home, Fulham away, Leicester at home, Bournemouth away, Palace at home. That's a pretty good run of fixtures in terms of Brighton. Look pretty solid, don't they? And
we know where Brighton have problems. It's scoring goals, not keeping clean sheets. They are very, very good at the back. There's a few other areas in this team I'm suspect about, Rio. I think Leon Bailey, Pedro Neto, probably time to cut the losses on those two, although they were super cheap at the start. Obviously, Leon Bailey's now a rotation player within the Aston Villa forward line. You just can't rely on him being a starter. Pedro Neto is an interesting one if he gets the move to Arsenal, but then he also becomes a rotation player, doesn't he?
Even less appealing.
And then Bukayo Saka, I just think Martinelli is the better option at that price point. Although Saka, I'm sure, is going to contribute this season. Martinelli being so much cheaper than him is just a tap-in.
I feel like at the start of last season, Saka was one of those players that just was involved in absolutely everything for Arsenal. Then towards the back end of last season, he sort of quietened down a little bit. And it's the same with this season. There just seems to be a lot of other players that are contributing to Arsenal's goals. And Saka just isn't one of them at the moment. Not saying he won't, because of course he will. He's so good. But Martinelli, Odegaard and Jesus are those three Arsenal midfielders and forwards that just look far better value for money.
Ødegaard in particular, I think, is just creeping into like my thought process about whether or not to bring him into the side.
Yeah, and so's another Arsenal midfielder. Do you want to tell everyone who you were talking about before?
I'm not going to bring him in because there are better Arsenal options. Ones to watch on my watch list, there is Granit Xhaka.
Interesting.
Because he is playing this more advanced role. We've seen him get into the box, into really good goal-scoring positions in the first 3 weeks. Zinchenko's filling his space in the defensive role. So I'm very interested by Granit Xhaka and going forward because he's so cheap. I won't be taking him because I've got, already got Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus. And I think there are good defensive options like William Saliba that are popping up for Arsenal. But he's an outside shout at that price point.
It's an interesting one. Also interesting, this is a bit of a debate, Joe. So Martinelli, of course, got the assist for one of the Arsenal goals. And it was a shot that the keeper saved. And I can't remember who scored from the rebound, but anyway, Arsenal scored the goal, and Martinelli got the assist.
It was Ødegaard, I think.
Do you think that should be an assist?
I don't know, because it was a very good save. So he is technically forcing the chance, and I think Ødegaard tapped it in. So I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it, and it's also like when you pass 2 yards to someone and someone smashes it in from 40 yards, that's also an assist.
Assists are a myth, aren't they? So.
Yeah, exactly. So we're saying that is absolutely fine in FPL terms, and Martinelli is again an option that people have got to be looking at. If you haven't got him by now.
Yeah, and if you haven't got Jesus by now, I know that he didn't score on the weekend, but his all-round performance was unbelievable. Even the disallowed goal, the finish was sensational. So I fully expect him to score this weekend at home again. He's just going to be a dangerous player.
Right, let's have a look then at some of the standout players, or maybe ones to keep your eye on. I mean, maybe this person isn't one to keep an eye on. This is a person you should be transferring in your team. He's the highest point scorer so far. I was on the receiving end of his brilliant performance against Chelsea. Rodrigo, just playing as a now number 9 through the middle. He was even appealing at the start of the season when Patrick Bamford was there, but even more so now. His goal was absolutely brilliant.
And I think it's vital as well that, we touched upon the fact he's been given the captaincy, because I think that is a real statement from Jesse Marsch that he is going to be a mainstay in this squad. So if you're worried about, Rodrigo's position fading when Patrick Bamford becomes fit again, I think he probably just drops slightly deeper. Obviously, he's been included in that leadership group alongside Bamford and Liam Cooper now. So I think there's very realistic chances that he starts 90% of the games, and at 6.3 million, it's really good value. It almost feels like it's worth now taking a punt on him, even if he starts to blank. Okay, whatever. It didn't work out, but it might be worth it because he's a midfielder playing up front, basically.
And Leeds have got, Brighton away is a tough game. Brighton, like we spoke about Robert Sanchez, don't really concede, but Leeds have been scoring and look really impressive under Jesse Marsch. So maybe Rodrigo is one. He's so cheap for an FPL midfielder that's playing up front, and you always love an out of position
I love some of these Leeds players. Like I said, I think last week about Brendan Aronson being a potential differential. I think we looked at his ownership and it was like sub 1% or low 1%. He was really, really low. And we saw how good he was against Chelsea. Yeah. His work rate off the ball, I don't know what he's been eating, was outrageous. And when he goes into those attacking areas and presses the goalkeeper and comes into the back post, like a 1.4% ownership is so good. I think at 5.5 million, he's a serious candidate as a differential.
Yeah, 8 points there. And after Brighton, they've got Everton at home, Brentford away, and then Nottingham Forest at home. Yeah. Obviously, that Brentford away fixture is very tough. Everyone that goes to the Brentford Community Stadium, or the G-Tech Community Stadium, I think it's now called, struggles. But those fixtures are pretty good. But when we're thinking Rodrigo or Brendan Aronson, you're not going to have both of them in your team, are you? Let's be honest. Unless you're a Leeds fan, maybe you might.
You might not have the money to get Rodrigo. And if you don't, then you want a Leeds player in. I think Brendan Aronson's a really good option in those midfield roles because he is kind of playing more advanced. He had this goal earlier in the season as well. I think he's going to be a key player for Jesse Marsch, how he wants to play football. Yeah,
absolutely. Kevin De Bruyne is an interesting one.
Got to talk about him.
We've got to talk about KDB. 12.1 million. So he is expensive. It's almost like you have him or Haaland, because I don't think you can go into Crystal Palace at home and then Nottingham Forest at home and not have one of these two players.
Yeah. But although I did see some worrying quotes from Pep this week about Erling Haaland.
Yes, so did I.
where he said he's not going to be starting every game, and Julian Alvarez is going to start starting games. And if that is the case, that concerns me.
So is that a case of maybe swapping Haaland to KDB, or maybe Haaland to Kane?
Yeah, well, I started the season with Kane.
Yeah.
I didn't play it particularly well, bottled it, then went to Haaland, and I probably should have just maintained Kane. But if you've got Haaland, don't sell Haaland. I still think even with Pep's comments, might be a little bit of mind games, he's still going to play 90% of the minutes.
Yeah, and KDB, just looking there, obviously he's expensive, but 5, 14 and 6.
And against Newcastle, I mean, like the pass to Bernardo is just so good.
Out of this world.
I know. I think there's also like an argument to be made about Kevin De Bruyne, though, because he's in that midfield role. And like if Haaland does start scoring goals, there might be a case to be made that like all of his assists are coming from KDB, those like whip crosses or like little balls tucked down the side.
Yeah.
I think he's an unbelievable option, KDB, if you've got him.
I mean, I think I don't have him. I can't see myself taking
Can't
up
afford
Haaland,
him.
no, to put him in. But depending on how the season goes, he might become a player that, you have to have in your team. Another interesting player, Alexander Mitrovic. He is the highest scoring Fulham player so far, which isn't surprising. But he's had the most shots this season out of anyone. And he's only 6.6 million. Fulham do look much more improved this time around in the Premier League, and he is evidently getting chances. But
I really want to get a better 11th player in my side, where you have to have like a Leon Bailey or something like that. I really want to get a Mitrovic or something like that, or an Ivan Toney into the team. I think even at the weekend, he missed some massive chances, Mitrovic. He obviously scored with the header of the season so far. Brilliant effort, but he could have scored 2 or 3 in that game. He looks so dangerous. My issue with him right now is he has such a hard run of fixtures coming up for Fulham, and I think around about like end of September, October sort of time, it is probably a better time to bring him in.
Yeah, you're looking at that Nottingham Forest away fixture in game week 8.
Like, look at this: Arsenal, Brighton, Tottenham, Chelsea,
and all away as well. Arsenal away, Tottenham away, Chelsea or Chelsea at home. That is, but you can't. I know he's been getting chances, but you can't really see Fulham creating that many chances against the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham and Chelsea, really, can you?
No, but what I can see happening is Mitrovic on top of Reece James, back post, Reece James playing centre-back.
Reece James wouldn't let that happen.
All right, let's talk about some new additions then, because there have been some big signings, haven't there? We may as well start with Casemiro. I would not be touching him with a barge pole.
All I can see is yellow card. And I think it's a brilliant signing for Manchester United in terms of, I think he's a player that they do need, but in terms of an FPL perspective, 5 million's pretty cheap, but he's going to be that player that sits.
Yeah,
he's not going to be that box to box. Like he's not going to be a good FPL player.
He's not going to be on set pieces. No. He's not going to be a point scorer. Not going to be a goal scorer. So I would be steering clear of Casemiro. Mateus Nunes at 5. He was quite advanced for Wolves, more than I was expecting.
Yeah, he looked really good as well. He looked really exciting. However, Wolves don't score goals. We said this. They really struggle in front of goal.
And I think Gonzalo Guedes, the other new addition, is probably even a more exciting option for FPL, because he was getting some really good areas. And also, just to shout out, Raul Jimenez did score midweek.
Yeah, he did. And that is obviously, maybe they're just ones to watch with Wolves. Now Raul Jimenez is back from injury. He is fairly expensive. I can't imagine many people are going to be going for him. But like we said, the other 2 Wolves assets, maybe just ones to keep your eye on over the next few game weeks at least. And then, of course, West Ham signed Emerson from Chelsea, which I think is a very good signing for them. However, I'm not... 4 million is obviously the cheapest you can get. But I just can't see him replacing Aaron Cresswell straight away.
Well, let's see. Maybe David Moyes is thinking about changing tact and moving to a back 3 and then using Emerson Palmieri as left wing back. We've seen him use Cresswell as a left-sided centre-back in the past. Yeah. They looked really shaky at the back at the weekend, didn't they? So maybe he's thinking of doing that. And at 4 million, if Emerson is going to play minutes, then he is a very viable option. Yeah,
maybe another one to keep your eye on, Emerson at West Ham. Now, maybe even this guy isn't one to keep your eye on. Kieran Trippier at Newcastle. He's returned in every game so far. You've had him from the start.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to keep him.
Definitely going to be keeping him. For now, definitely going to be keeping him. The only thing that holds Kieran Trippier back, I think, is injuries. So while he's fit, I think he's an unreal asset to have, because he takes all of the set pieces. And having a player who is that good on corners and free kicks, the goal at the weekend, just spectacular, is a really, really vital asset. As well as the fact that Newcastle look quite... I know they shipped 3, but it was against Manchester City at the weekend. But with Nick Pope in goal, Botman and Dan Burn hopefully forming a good partnership on the left-hand side of the defence, I think it's a very solid option at 5.1 Kieran Trippier, much better than some of the other sort of 5 range defenders.
And even much better at the moment, he's much better value than even the more expensive defenders. Reece James, Trent, Robertson, Cancelo.
Yeah, value for money anyway.
Brilliant value for money. So that might be a move that I was looking for, maybe Cucurella to Trippier. If I'm only going to do one sub this week...
I think that's a nailed. I think that's just such a tap in, Cucurella to Trippier, if you've already got Reece James in your team.
Yeah, but that Leicester at home fixture is like sticking with me for some reason, and I can't. Even though he's going to be playing left centre back, Cucurella, so that might be one to think about. But I mean, I think a lot of people will already have Kieran Trippier, and if you haven't, it may be his time to invest. Yeah,
he does have, I think, a couple more hard fixtures coming up though. But either way, just his set pieces are so
that
good.
Free kicks out as well, doesn't it? Time for captain picks. Now, I'm looking at Haaland, Salah and Jesus and thinking this is one of the hardest captain picks we've had so far. I mean, we've only had 3 game weeks given, but they've all got really, really nice home fixtures. Haaland, Palace at home, Salah, Bournemouth at home, and Jesus, Fulham at home. Fulham have conceded the most big chances in the league this season. But you think it's an easy decision?
For me, I'm going to be sticking with Mo Salah. I think Palace at home is actually a really tricky fixture for Manchester City. We saw how good they were when they went to Anfield, and historically they've got a really good record at the Etihad as well. So the choice for me is really between Salah and Jesus. Obviously, Fulham midweek disaster against Crawley Town. So maybe I'll be looking at Jesus, but Salah, I've just got a feeling Liverpool are going to bounce back in a huge way after that appalling performance at Old Trafford. Fans are going to be on their case, and he just always scores, Salah, even when they're crap, like against United on Monday. Somehow gets on the end of it and scores a goal. So I'll be going for Salah, Bournemouth at home. What are you going to do?
I don't know. I mean, I think captain picks have been such a poor decision. Like, I've been making poor decisions these last 3 game weeks in terms of captain. I always seem to go for the wrong guy. This week I went Jesus over Salah. I mean, Jesus, really watching that game, should have scored. He was brilliant, and that's why I'm looking at that Fulham at home fixture. I mean, to be honest, I'm looking at Jesus for my captain, but I can understand why why people would go Salah. Yeah. Haaland is an interesting one because even when, City, I mean, to be fair, even when City concede, they still look like they're going to score.
Definitely.
And Haaland he should have scored more. Shouldn't he, against Newcastle?
And I'm sure they will score against Palace, but I think of the 3 teams that are being played against, Palace are the best. Yeah. And they've got the best defensive unit. And there's no, after the Pep comments, there's not a 100% guarantee that Haaland starts. So for me, I think it's rule Haaland out and then go between Salah or Jesus. Right, that's it for another week. Just a reminder, there is Man United versus Southampton 12:30, so it's a Saturday 11 o'clock deadline. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, let us know who you captain, because I think that's a big decision this week, whether you're going to go Salah, Haaland or Jesus. Joe's going Salah. I'm going Jesus. I think that might change.
Bottling.
I'm taking it off you. You always bottle your captain pick. So, guys, let us know, and we will see you all next week.